Wisdom shines in talks with Sri Ramana Maharshi. My comments bring this profound wisdom into your experience. Use YouTube's closed captions to read along. The questioner asks how to control the mind, and Maharshi replies, "What mind? Whose is the mind?" The devotee asks, "The mind always wanders. I cannot control it." Maharshi replies, "It is the nature of the mind to wander. You are not the mind." In this dialogue, the questioner asks Ramana how to control the mind. Common question among spiritual seekers, no matter what their practice is. In response, Ramana starts by asking the question, what is the mind? And whose is the mind? This is because in Advaita Vedanta, the mind is seen as an illusion or a construct of the ego, rather than a real entity existing in its own right. Understanding the nature of the mind and its source is essential to control of the mind. The questioner responds by saying that the mind always wanders and they can't control it. Ramana explains that it is of the nature of the mind to wander. The mind is like a monkey that constantly jumps from one branch to another, and it cannot be controlled by force. Then he gives a vital insight. You are not the mind. The true nature of the self is not the mind, but the pure awareness that underlies the mind. The mind is just a tool for the seeming individual to function in the apparent world. But the mind is not the true self itself. Trying to control the mind is like trying to hold on to a reflection in the mirror. Instead of trying to control the mind, Ramana Maharshi suggests that we simply observe it and let it do what it does. By observing the mind without judgment, we gain a better understanding of its nature and begin to detach from its influence. This detachment allows us to experience the true nature of the self, which is pure awareness beyond the mind. He tells us to discriminate the real from the unreal. This is to distinguish the temporary changing content of the mind from the unchanging awareness that lights up the mind with its consciousness. One is just an appearance. The other always is. Importantly, Ramana tells us to look to the source, where the mind and where the sense of I am come from. The mind is not settled by force of will. It is settled by knowledge, self-knowledge, direct knowledge of existence. The key message of this dialogue is that the mind cannot be controlled by force, and that by trying to do so only leads to frustration and suffering. Your true nature, the nature of the true self, is not the mind, but the pure awareness that underlies it. By observing the mind without judgment and understanding its true nature, we can begin to detach from its influence and experience the true nature of the self. Finally, when we realize the mind never really existed to begin with, we're free from its influence, which was only imagined after all. These videos help bring Ramana Maharshi's teachings into your direct experience. Subscribe now to help you deepen your understanding and practice to know the self. Just click the subscribe button.